Good morning and welcome to the June 25th Aviation and Transportation Subcommittee. I am joined by Councilwoman Williams. We are the subcommittee today. I'm calling the meeting to order. And the first item is call to the public. I believe we have no cards at this time. So let's go to the minutes of the meeting. And any comments before a motion?
No comments, I move approval.
Okay, and I second it. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it carries. The next is our consent item number 2. Any comments on that or ready for a
I
motion?
move approval.
Okay, second it. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. The next 2 items, 3 and 4, are information-only items. Do you have any comments on that?
I do not. Thank you.
Okay, well then let's move to item 5, which will be a presentation by Keeney and Brianna. And I think, Mario, you have a couple comments?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair and Councilwoman Williams. This item may look a little bit familiar to you because that's because in January this year, the subcommittee reviewed the proposed pilot e-scooter program and gave preliminary approval to move forward with the item. And since that time, there's been an extensive vetting process that's occurred on the item with a great deal of input on how to best structure the program. The item also went to the Planning and Economic Development Subcommittee twice, actually. So a lot of input was provided from them. And based on the feedback from both subcommittees, staff did reach out to downtown stakeholder groups and neighborhood groups and those around downtown as well, and facilitated discussions with them. We had meetings with the police department, the city attorney's office, Phoenix Community Alliance, scooter vendor companies, and other stakeholders as well. We also did some further research and worked with other cities to identify some best practices. Not being among the very first cities to roll out a program like this allows us to learn from some of the positives and negatives that others have experienced. So Keeney and Brianna are here to explain the program and some of the changes that have been worked out since the subcommittee last reviewed. This item is scheduled to also go to the full council at tomorrow's formal meeting. So with that, I will turn it over to Keeney.
Thank you, Mario. Madam Chair, Councilwoman Williams, I think that before, Brianna's going to take you through the majority of the presentation, and as we probably joked on a little earlier, was that a lot of this will look familiar to you. And I just wanted to point out from the coordination aspect, I really wanted to highlight the work that the group that has been working on this has been engaged in and has performed over the last 6-7 months. We have, this all started with getting a letter from one of our downtown partners, the Phoenix Community Alliance, requesting this pilot program. We jumped into action working on it. And we know, because of what we've seen and when we talk with other cities around the country, what they've experienced with scooter programs. And we wanted to make sure we get this right. And I think the pilot program is the right way to go about dealing with this and moving forward with this. But I think the work that our staff has done from the city side to get to where we are today, our work with the various council members, working with community and stakeholders and community groups as well, I think that's led us today, and I think we're at the point where what the action that we hopefully will be going for tomorrow with from council is a reflection of the best we can do for this pilot program. Like I said, we're not done. It's a pilot program, so if it goes on beyond that, we know we have the opportunity to be able to make changes then too. So I'll turn it over to Brianna to take you through a presentation, but I just wanted to point out some of the great work that we've done.
Thank you, Keeney. Good morning. So shared scooters, what are they? A micromobility service made available in the public right-of-way where users utilize their smartphones to rent and pay to utilize the scooters. The users do pay per ride to utilize these scooters. And so many cities are recognizing scooters as an alternative transportation option to vehicles. They've seen great success for providing short trips as well as first and last mile connections with transit. This is an alternative transportation option available to visitors, particularly when people are coming out of town and don't particularly want to rent vehicles. Some of the cities are seeing an impact on their traffic and parking congestion, and so they're seeing that it is being reduced as a result of deploying scooters within their downtown areas. And so as we take a look at the proposed pilot overview, the initial boundary area that we recommended in January was 7th Avenue to 7th Street, Buckeye Road to McDowell Road. And after a lot of discussion with several council members, we are proposing to reduce the northern boundary from Central to 7th Avenue to Portland Street, as well as modifying to incorporate the area bounded by Grand Avenue and Roosevelt Street to capture the Grand Avenue area. We are recommending a 6-month pilot program with a 3-month update to both the A&T and PED subcommittee. We are requiring a permit in order to deploy a electric scooter service in the public right-of-way. I want to make sure that it's very clear as it relates to the permit that the permit is revocable or can be suspended, and so there are going to be very strict requirements that we are going to place on the vendors. And should we see during the pilot program that a vendor is not operating by those restrictions and regulations, that we intend to revoke or suspend that permit. The other thing is proposed fees. So we are recommending that this program be fully cost recovery and no city funds go into the administration of this program. And so the proposed fees include a $500 application fee, as well as a $5,000 6-month permit fee, a 10-cent surcharge fee for per ride, as well as a $80 relocation fee should the city have to go and collect a scooter should a vendor not be responsive within the 2-hour time frame. Those fees will be evaluated during the pilot program, and we will be bringing information forward on whether those should be increased or decreased based on our evaluation. In addition to, ordinance changes are required. So right now it is illegal to operate an electric scooter on public streets, and so ordinance changes would be required to allow them to operate, in addition to creating a pilot program that would allow us to issue permits. So staff did meet with the police department to talk about this potential pilot program, and so what we heard from them is they wanted the ordinance changes to include language to allow them to issue civil traffic violations, and so those ordinance changes are proposed as part of the pilot program. Some of the items would be to issue citations for speed limit violations, yielding the right-of-way, parking violations, as well as riding on the sidewalk. The PED subcommittee recommended that we go out and do some public outreach as it relates to this pilot program. And so staff attended 10 community meetings with all the neighborhood organizations within the downtown area and just outside the pilot boundary. And I would say for the most part, everybody was pretty supportive of a pilot scooter program. Some of the top concerns we did hear was violations and enforcement, which we think we have covered by the ordinance changes related to issuing civil traffic violations as well as criminal violations. Parking and staging, which I will get into very shortly. General safety, ensuring that users knew how to properly ride scooters. Sidewalk riders, which is why we're recommending that we prohibit scooter riding on sidewalks. And bicycle infrastructure. So in your packet, you're going to see an attachment F, which has the bicycle facilities map. This attachment demonstrates where we have existing bike lanes as well as sharrows within our downtown pilot area, where new bicycle infrastructure is coming in with currently planned CIP projects, and where our department is recommending to add in bike lanes or bicycle sharrows as part of this pilot program to create a connected network for scooter riders on some of our lower volume streets. So what we heard from both the community as well as both PED and A&T subcommittee was that there was concerns for visual blight and clutter within our right-of-way. And so staff is recommending that we have designated parking and staging locations for scooters. And so what that means is these scooters are only allowed to be parked as well as deployed by the vendors within these very specific delineated parking areas. And so as you can see here, we intend to delineate them with tape on the appropriate area, as well as there will be a flexible delineator, so kind of like a post that will be bright in color to identify here's where scooters should be parked for both the vendors and the users. We also intend to work with the vendors to require within their app that there is a map available showing where these should be properly parked. And so as we looked at opportunities to deploy the parking and staging locations, here's a on-street location on 5th Avenue and Fillmore where there is a striped out area that's currently not being utilized, and so we think this is a great opportunity for scooters to be parked within that area. And so this would be a proposed area where they could be deployed and staged. And so as we looked at all of the on-street, we are recommending all the locations where there is no removal of current parking. So we are not recommending removal of any current parking. Here's a great opportunity on 2nd Avenue in Fillmore for off-street parking. And so here we have our stormwater drainage opportunity here. And so we have a concrete slab that doesn't serve any purpose, and so this is a great opportunity where we could stage scooters. And so as you can see clearly, the sidewalk area is set back for the pedestrians, and so there should not be any conflict. It's very close to the street where we know that we want these scooters to be ridden. And so staff worked really hard to identify within the pilot boundary opportunities to create these parking and staging locations. And so we have approximately 400 locations identified for the pilot program. And within this, we think there is approximately 3,000 to 3,200 parking locations for scooters between all of these 400 locations. So the proposed program overview includes that riders must be 18 years of age, and that will be a requirement within the ordinance, that they are required to have a valid driver's license, that helmets are encouraged by the vendors, and so the vendors will be required within their safety and education plan to educate the riders to utilize helmets. They also have, several of the vendors said they have a free helmet program if requested, and some of them have said they'll work with the local businesses to provide free helmets there for users. Sidewalk riding will be prohibited, and riders will be held accountable under the state DUI statutes as well as any other criminal violations. So as part of the program, we're requiring the vendors set the maximum speed on the scooters to 15 miles per hour. They will be required to provide a customized app information specific to the city of Phoenix. So this is where they're going to tell riders you cannot ride on sidewalks, utilize low volume streets where applicable. You have to be 18 and stuff. And so this is that they have to abide by all civil traffic laws. They'll also have to provide a safety education plan as well as a operations and maintenance plan. So we want to know how often the vendor is out there maintaining these scooters. We want to know how often they're going out and ensuring that they are monitoring where these scooters are. And so that is all part of the permit that we will be evaluating and holding them accountable for. The other issue that we did hear from some of the cities that we talked to regarding the deployment of scooters was that the vendor workers were parking in traffic lanes, turning on their hazard lights, and picking up or dropping off scooters. And so we are going to be very clear in our permit that the workers will have to park in a legal parking space in order to drop off and pick up scooters. So some of the proposed permit stipulations as part of this pilot program, we are recommending a maximum of 300 scooters per vendor. They will have to provide an operational plan that addresses downtown events. And so these are for events with more than 5,000 attendees. That was another concern we heard from some of the other cities was making sure they had a plan when there are larger events like that because scooters tend to collect very quickly for concerts and special events such as that. And so making sure they have a plan in place on how they're going to attack that and make sure they're implementing that plan on the day of the special event. The other is data sharing requirements. So there's a lot of data that they capture as part of their daily process. And so we want to make sure we're capturing all the appropriate data so that we can provide back all of that great information. So the use of technology was very important and critical to this pilot program. And so we went out and talked to several downtown stakeholders. And so that included the Maricopa County, some of our city facilities such as the Convention Center, as well as ASU and some of our special event areas such as the ballpark. And so what we heard from them is they didn't want scooter riding throughout their area. And so we are going to require that they implement geofence technology and demonstrate that capability before we issue a permit. And so what that means is if a scooter was to enter one of these geofenced areas, as you can see on the blocks, then the scooter would slow down to about 3 to 4 miles per hour and wouldn't operate at its normal speed. And so we are requiring that the vendor also make it audible to the riders so that they know they should not be riding within these areas. The other thing we're going to require is geofencing of the whole boundary area. And so what this means is the scooters should not ride outside of the pilot boundary area, which we've identified in here. And so that will be done through the geofencing technology as well. So as part of the permit process, we are requiring standard City of Phoenix insurance requirements, which is a general aggregate of $5 million. Vendors and users will be required to indemnify, defend, and release the City of Phoenix. And there is a $50,000 performance bond required as part of the permit.
Could I ask a quick question? I know that one of the councilwomen had a concern with this issue, and that's why it went to Planning and Economic Development. Have we addressed her issues?
Yes, we've actually met with the councilwoman and talked through all of those issues, and we feel that she is comfortable with the language we're proposing at this time.
Okay, thank you.
And so as part of the pilot program evaluation, like I said, we will be coming back within the first 3 months to provide you data of how the pilot program is operating. And so some of the things we're going to be taking a look at is the ridership trends, the trip locations, the average trip times and distances, and the trips completed. And so this is all part of the data sharing that the vendors will provide us. We're also going to include vendor surveys as well as city surveys as part of that program. We will be monitoring operator and rider compliance and providing all of that data. We've also worked with our public safety staff to talk about incidents, and so they have agreed during the pilot program to capture all of the information related to if there's any incidents related to scooters and capturing that in the report. Also the net cost, so like I had mentioned earlier, we want this to be cost recovery and no city funds going into this, so we will be evaluating the cost to make sure it is cost recovery. And community feedback. This is going to be the really important piece. How does the community feel about this pilot program, and what are they seeing, and what do they think is working and not working? So we will be providing all of that. And so as we look at the next steps of this, as Mario mentioned, we are going to City Council formal meeting tomorrow to request approval. Then we will work on formalizing the pilot program requirements. And so we think this will take us a couple weeks to finalize the application and the permit. And so right now, I think we're intending to open up applications in mid-July. And we would like to give the vendors 1 month to submit their applications. And so we would have a close date of, say, mid-August for the permitting. And so then that would give staff an opportunity to review those applications and work with the vendors to demonstrate all of those requirements that they're required to comply with. And we're thinking that the pilot program could be operational in mid-September. And so we want to put hard dates where everybody's permit is issued on the same day, and we make this program open on one start date. And then we will evaluate that program and come back to both A&T and PED subcommittee with an update after 3 months. And so staff requests that the Aviation and Transportation Subcommittee recommend City Council approval for the proposed downtown shared electric scooter pilot program.
So we have a couple speakers. Do you have any questions, or should we do speakers first?
I do have a couple questions, but
Speakers first? Okay. So John Brodsky from Phoenix Community Alliance.
Good morning, Madam Chair and council members. Is this on? Okay, good, thank you. My name is John Brodsky, Executive Director of Phoenix Community Alliance, 1 East Washington Street, Suite 230, Phoenix 85004. Still new, didn't want to mess up the address. PCA, as most of you know, is a 36-year-old business leadership and advocacy organization for Greater Downtown. We have more than 270 members from the private, nonprofit, and public sectors, and we're the membership affiliate of Downtown Phoenix Incorporated. First, we want to thank you, the committee and the council, for taking up this issue, which was an important one and a complicated one to talk through. We want to thank the city staff members from the Street Transportation Department, Deputy City Manager Paniagua for all of the work that's gone into this, the scooter companies who have been involved in this issue, and of course the downtown stakeholders who are the key to all of this, trying to benefit them. PCA's Multimodal Connectivity and Public Affairs Committee supported bringing the pilot program, and PCA submitted a letter earlier this year that's referenced in the City Council report. We feel that the benefits of the pilot program give a real good tool in the downtown connectivity toolbox that we can learn and gain information on this new transportation option with great benefits for short trips, connections to transit, for employees and residents downtown, for visitors and people accessing businesses and government downtown. We encourage the scooter companies to work closely with street transportation in the city to engage with the community and stakeholders, and we see that that's been done, and that's been really great in educating this process and bringing the process closer to becoming reality. PCA will continue to assist with this process, and we support the pilot program coming to the full City Council vote, and we believe it's a transportation option that can really benefit folks downtown. Thank you.
The next speaker is Tim Alborg. Welcome.
Good morning, Chairwoman, Council Member. Just like to start off by thanking staff for all the time that you guys have put into this program. I think this has been a very collaborative and thoughtful process, and so I'd really like to thank the staff for the time that they put into this. You know, we're mostly in support of this pilot as it's written. We would like for a little bit more thought to be put into the number of operators that are going to be participating in this pilot. So we'd like to avoid some of the oversaturation that we've seen in cities such as Austin, San Antonio, Atlanta, Paris, France, a lot of other cities. Some of those cities have had 10 or more companies come to town, and there's really nothing in the pilot program as it's articulated at this point that would address the number of operators. There is no cap, for example. So potentially you could have 10 or 12 or more companies coming to town for the pilot. So we'd ask that the City Council staff consider potentially putting a limit on that. We think maybe 3 companies is the right number. Have them start with 300 scooters each, and then allow those 3 companies to grow organically as the demand calls for it. So just ask the council to consider that. Happy to answer any questions you have, but thank you so much.
Thank you. I think legally we probably can't limit the number of companies. Had we done a request for proposals, we might have been able to do it. I don't know if the attorney wants to speak to the legality, but I think we're in a free market system, so I think we're somewhat limited at this point, but thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Can
Just to introduce McCain Mahoney with our City of Phoenix Law
maybe
Department.
expound on that?
Yes, council members. Unless we do a request for proposal, specifically calling for certain numbers of people to come in, we're precluded from doing that because we're doing a general permit right now. So the permit process in this pilot program is to allow anyone to come in, and if we specifically restrict that, we would have had to do something like a request for proposals.
That's what I thought. Thank you. We also have one card in support, not wishing to speak, Sam Drayman. Am I saying that correctly, Sam? Okay. So David Schwartz filled this out for Sam. Thank you. Okay, with that, any questions?
Did you say that each company that puts these out is limited to 300? And do
Madam
you
Chair,
have
Councilwoman Williams, absolutely. Maximum of 300 scooters per vendor.
Okay, but you're not setting a limit on how many vendors there are that can participate with 300?
That is correct. They will have to demonstrate that they can meet all of their requirements, and so should all of the vendors who provide an application be able to meet all of the strict requirements. And I will tell you, as we've talked with several of the cities, some of the requirements that we're putting in place we feel are probably some of the strictest that we've seen as far as a pilot program. And so I guess that's all going to wash out in terms of who's able to meet everything that we're requiring them to do and provide.
Looking where they have within the boundaries potential sites to place these. Is there a maximum number that you could align to those numbers, those spots that you've identified?
So,
And
yeah.
if it's a popular area, is there room for the ones to be leased and those that are being parked after being used?
So we have looked at certain areas where we think there might be high demand, and we've been able to find opportunities possibly on all four corners that don't restrict any of the pedestrian access ways, but that have a lot of opportunity. And so like I had mentioned in the presentation, of the 400 parking locations, we think that is about 3,000 to 3,200. And we've taken a look at the area to see how many scooters we think would fit in the appropriate area. Now, one of the things that we are going to monitor during the pilot is if we think an area can hold 10 scooters, are people trying to shove 20 scooters in there and now they're going outside the area? And so if that's something that we see during the pilot program, one of the recommendations that we will probably come back with is to actually stripe those locations with individual parking slots.
For scooters?
Yes, for scooters,
For
yeah,
scooters.
so that you can clearly see this location only holds 10, or this location allows 20. That is a lot of additional work for staff, and so we think during the pilot that probably doesn't make sense, but that's something that we are definitely going to monitor and probably come back with recommendations if we see it's an issue during the pilot program.
Madam Chair, Councilman Williams, and as Brina pointed out, we have done our best to, I think what we call our best to get to the point where we've learned whatever we can from all the other cities out there and what mistakes they've made, what they've done well. And so we've crafted our pilot program around there. But I know that when we go through this pilot program, we're still going to be in a learning phase. We're still going to be evaluating what works, what doesn't work. And there may be some things like parking locations and the number of parking spaces that we can modify during the course of the pilot program, but a lot of that may be things that we bring back, other information we'll be bringing back to the subcommittee and to council and saying this, if we want to continue this pilot program and make it a permanent program, here's the things that we have found out during the pilot program that we would further kind of draw a boundary around our program to make sure it's effective and works for City of Phoenix.
And if you find something appears immediately, you will bring that back and adjust accordingly?
Madam Chair, Councilwoman Williams, yes. If there's something that we see that's going to be, that we need to bring to council's attention or subcommittee's attention, we'll make sure we do that. I would also note that our permit requirements are requirements. We've got a lot of questions about, well, what if they don't comply? What if there isn't compliance? What if we have issues within the first month? If we see a vendor's not complying, we have the option to be able to take correction active with them leading up to and including potentially revocation of their permit for the pilot program. So we hope it doesn't get to that. We hope we have the vendors who were interested in participating so we can learn all we can about, because these vendors all do things differently. They all have different operating arrangement. They have all different technology. We want to make sure we're taking the best of those. So if we extend this pilot program beyond a pilot program, that we can take it, leverage all those things that we've learned and all the things that this industry potentially brings to Phoenix.
I want to thank you because I know you've put hours and hours and much effort into all of this. And I just want you to know it's appreciated, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And again, this is a pilot program, so we'll probably learn a lot in 6 months, and you will report back to us after 6 months, correct? After three,
Yeah,
okay.
Madam
Thank
Chair.
you for
Yes,
reminding
yes.
me, 3.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So any other questions?
Move approval.
Move approval? Okay, I will second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And ayes have it. Thank you so much. Thanks for all your hard work. Appreciate it. And I guess Keeney and Deanna are gonna stay up here to talk about the Oak Street Improvement Project update.
Yes, Madam Chair, Councilwoman Williams. This is another project. I know we've, in recent months and over maybe a course of a year or so, we've come and talked to this subcommittee about various bicycle and pedestrian projects that we have planned going around the city of Phoenix. And I think we have a lot of, we've heard a lot of different feedback from the public, members of the community about we want to see more bike lanes, we want to see more bike projects, but then we also heard people say we don't want to lose lanes, we don't want to lose traffic, we want to make sure the bike lanes are going the right place. And I think this is a way of being able to provide some of that information about the bike projects that we have planned and how they all connect together, how they work together. And part of our vision in the Street Transportation Department is to make sure these bike projects go to places where that we have lower volume streets. We have lower points of conflict between vehicles and bikes and pedestrians. And so this is another one of those projects we just wanted to have a chance to just talk to you briefly about. We came here recently talking about 20th Street. We've talked about the Grand Canalscape project. We've talked about two different 3rd Street projects. One's a little more midtown, another one here south of downtown. And this is for information discussion only, but we just wanted to make sure you have all the information you might want to have about how we're putting together a connected bicycle network that's safe for all users of the right-of-way. So I'll let Brianna take over the presentation and take you through it.
Thank you, Kenny. As Keeney mentioned, this is the Oak Street Improvement Project, and so this project was identified in the 2014 Bicycle Master Plan as a high priority project. And so this project encompasses Council District 4 and 8 and runs along Oak Street from 3rd Street all the way to the State Route 51 and heads north on the east side of State Route 51, eventually connecting into 20th Street all the way up to the Grand Canal. And so one of the main project goals of this project was connectivity to planned bicycle projects. And so as you can see on this map, we have Oak Street project outlined in green. And so we've talked to you about the 3rd Street Improvement Project, which is scheduled for construction in 2021. In addition to, we have our Grand Canalscape project, which is currently under construction and should be completed at the end of this year. We also talked to you this year about the 20th Street Improvement Project, which connects here as well. And so with the Accelerated Pavement Maintenance Program, there is an opportunity between Indian School and Greenfield to go in through the Accelerated Pavement Maintenance Program and narrow lanes. There are existing bike lanes, but we're going to add in a buffer and add in raised pavement markers for some level of protection. And so we're going to be able to do that this year. But we intend to work on this project, a part of it, and start design in 2021. The other project that we're currently working on is the Coulter Street Improvement Project. And so we were awarded a MAG Design Assistance Grant. And so this project is barely kicking off. And so we intend to bring this to the subcommittee for information on this pedestrian and bicycle improvement project. And so as you can see here, we're creating a very connected bicycle and pedestrian network. So some of the other project goals, including utilizing our collector streets, our low stress, low volume streets to create this bicycle pedestrian corridor. Within the project limits, there are 4 historic neighborhoods, so we want to preserve the neighborhood character and work with the community to make sure that they feel the improvements enhance their neighborhood. We want to maintain the existing travel lanes, so there is 1 lane each direction, and we want to make sure that we are maintaining that. And we want to utilize and improve the existing infrastructure. So there is a pedestrian bridge over the State Route 51, and so we wanted to utilize that as part of this project. There is an existing traffic circle at 12th Street and Oak, so we wanted to make improvements to that traffic circle. In addition to, there is an existing hawk as well on 7th Street and Oak. And so we've had 3 opportunities to go out and engage the public as it relates to this project. And so there was a MAG Design Assistance Grant that we were awarded to do a project assessment report with this. And so that was our initial community engagement. We held a public meeting during the pre-design phase. We recently, in February, held the 30% design open house. And so we have 1 more opportunity in August where we will have another open house to present the 60% to 90% design plans so that we can finalize design and move forward with construction. So what did we hear as part of all this community engagement that we participated in? 2 concerns that we heard was vehicular speed, and so really wanting to slow down traffic within this corridor. The other concern that we heard from this community was that they wanted to maintain as much of the on-street parking as they could when making improvements. Some of the needs that they identified was bicycle and auto conflict points. And so these are the intersections, and making sure through signing and striping that it was very clear where the bicycle as well as the auto should be. The other thing is they wanted opportunities to provide shade and enhance their community with landscaping. And so looking at opportunities to add any trees, as well as some drainage improvements in very specific areas. The other need that they identified was that they wanted some level of bicycle protection when we were looking at adding bicycle improvements within this corridor. So some of the planned design features include a 2-way cycle track. And so the 2-way cycle track provides the opportunity to maintain parking on one side of the street. We are also installing a rectangular rapid flashing beacon at 20th Street in Oak. Some of the other improvements include, as you can see here, not very clearly, but in the green, really utilizing signing and marking to identify those auto and bicycle conflicts. We are also taking the Hawk at 7th Street and Oak and upgrading it to a full traffic signal. We are also upgrading all of the ADA ramps within this area to make sure they are ADA compliant. Some of the other opportunities are the existing traffic circle as seen here. There are currently no crosswalks within that traffic circle, so we will be adding crossings there. We are also working with the community to add in speed tables near 14th Street and Oak, and so this is an opportunity to raise the pedestrians and make them visible while slowing down traffic on that particular street. We're also adding in street lights as well as missing sidewalk within this area. And I believe, and the trees and landscaping as mentioned. So one of the other opportunities that we are going to take advantage of as part of this program is green infrastructure. And so we are looking at adding in bioswales as shown here. And so this is an opportunity for us to use green infrastructure to collect and filter stormwater.
Could you just explain a bioswale, what it means?
With the bioswale, as you see here, you have a curb cut within the curb, and so this allows stormwater to go into this area, and we utilize the landscaping, and that is able to slow down the collection of stormwater. It collects it, and then it filters it. And so this is something that several cities are now looking at, and so this community was really interested in utilizing bioswales to see how it worked, and so it's something that we will evaluate as part of this project.
Thank you.
And so as we look at the schedule, the planning phase was completed in 2017. The design phase is currently between 60 and 90%, which we will have that public open house in August, and we will finalize design this fall. And then we intend to start construction in 2020 on this project. And so staff will continue to provide status updates to the A&T subcommittee as the project progresses.
Thank you. Any questions?
Of course.
Of course, go for it.
How much will this cost?
That's part of we're finalizing those cost estimates, and we can provide that back to you. We're just, as we go through the last piece of the public engagement with 60 to 90%, there's some changes that could be made there, but we can get you some information on the cost of the construction.
And where will the money come from?
This will come from, we've got some AHR money that we have available to this through some of our community, but there's a chance that we maybe use both AHR or transportation $50 in that.
Or a combination?
Combination of.
Okay. And if people do not want the bike lane, I'm very adamant about that, you know, because I'm having this discussion on a little stretch in my district, which I think is very unsafe, because it's narrowing a road in front of an elementary school where morning and night it's lined on both sides with parents trying to pick up their kids, and you throw a bike lane in there, and I think we're creating a hazardous situation. What will happen?
Madam Chair, Councilwoman Williams, that's one of the things that, as we've been looking at some of these bicycle pedestrian projects, there's some opportunities sometimes to do some creative things, and sometimes we're trying to question as staff whether the creative things are going to work in reality. And so that's something when we go out to the public on the 60 to 90%, before we finalize those plans, we want to make sure they are fully on board with what we're planning on doing there, because we want to make sure that it's safe, it'll be used the way we want to, but it's also the driver expectation piece, because drivers who may not be used to seeing something out there, they see something different, they don't know how to act and react to it. So we want to make sure we limit that, because the more the drivers can see what get what they expect or see what they're expecting and be able to react that way, the safer it is for bicyclists and pedestrians who will be using that corridor as well. So that's something that's part of that conversation we'll have with the community. But if they did come back and have some real heartburn or concern with the way we're planning on doing it, we would obviously regroup and kind of figure out how we're going to go from here on it. I don't anticipate that, but if it comes that way, that's obviously something we'll have to deal with, because we don't want to move forward with the project if there's strong opposition to it as well.
How do people get invited to participate in this?
Typically when we're doing our public open house we'll have a geographic area around the project area that they'll be able to they'll receive cards or invitations or notifications through that. We also can, depending on the type of project, use social media to outreach to them. At times we use the neighborhood services department, neighborhood association group as well to make sure we're capturing the folks in there. But I think sometimes when we do obviously have it posted on our webpage and all that, but there's sometimes that when we have a situation where people who are commuters coming through that, they may not get the same notification as other ways. So we can work through that to make sure that as many people as we can get at those meetings, we will get at those meetings. But we can use a combination of different methods to do that.
So is it under construction for the commuters? You could put up the signs, kind of like where you have the other construction in the cities?
That is something we've talked about. I don't know if we've implemented that where we have potentially a variable message sign out there or some kind of signage out there, letting people know that there's a public meeting coming up dealing with the traffic configuration, the lane configuration. We've talked about that, but that's something we could definitely use as we're going through and getting ready to publicize this meeting. And I think that does help the people who use the street but may not be living in the corridor around the street. So thank you for that suggestion.
Do you want a motion?
I don't think we need a motion
don't
on
need a
this. I think
motion?
it's just an information.
okay.
And you'll continue to bring these kinds of projects forward. It's evidence that our Transportation 2050 is working. So thank you so much. We have no more items. Call to the public. We don't have any cards, okay. So future agenda items, are there any you wish to see?
I do. I had,
Okay.
I met a man in a wheelchair,
Oh,
and I think he was at the Black Mountain.
he was at the Black Mountain Community Alliance, yes.
And I met him Saturday night.
Oh,
And I wanted to be sure to pass the message along that the way the new bus stops are being installed are hazardous to wheelchairs. And, yeah, the spacing is wrong. So we need to go back, and he specifically named along Bell Road.
Bell Road was a point of contention with him, but he was afraid that it might be happening throughout the
Yeah.
city, so if we can look at the distancing, yes, thank you for that.
And evidently, the way they're set, he was there, and a blind person using a cane walked right into the bus shelter.
Okay, wow.
So we need to look into that and see if we need to make some changes and not install any more till we have it covered.
Thank you, Councilwoman. We will definitely look into that right away and report back to you on what we find and make any changes that we deem necessary to make sure they're safe.
Yeah, he actually he lives in District 1, takes Bell Road down to 7th Street and goes to the VA hospital. So he makes a day of commuting, and it's critical. He did mention at the Black Mountain Community Alliance, he's visually impaired, and it poses a hazard. Okay, anything else? Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Good meeting.